If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show, Real Estate Only. An article just came out, and I guess Zillow looked at 400 different cities around America. And what is Zillow doing with 400 different cities, Ron?
So, I mean, Zillow's a giant aggregator of data, and of course, they're a local company here in Seattle. And so what they try to do is they have some economists, and they constantly get stories out in the media to help their stock price, all that stuff. And what they're trying to do is go market by market to go year over year, see what's trending in real estate. And we talk about this a lot. When you see a national study many times, like USA Today, or you'll see something on Apple News that gives you a national view of real estate, it can be really deceiving and confusing because what happens nationally doesn't necessarily translate to every single market.
And here's one thing people may not know. Like when you see a house sometimes online and you see it on Zillow, and then you see those three realtors that you could call, those three realtors usually aren't representing the house that you're looking at. They have paid a lot of money to be on that particular Zillow ad, right? They paid a lot of money. And so if you pick up that phone and you call, you're not calling that realtor, you're actually calling Zillow. And then what Zillow does is they patch you through to that realtor. So let's say I live in the 98111 area code, which I don't. But in that particular area code, there might be 10 different realtors or 20 different realtors that work in that area code. And they might be paying Zillow $1,000 a month to be in that area code. You have realtors out there that might say, I'm going to pick 3 area codes over on the east side because I want to sell some homes on the east side, and 3 different area codes here in Seattle. They're paying Zillow a lot of money to show up on those particular ads. So when people are driving over the bridge and they see a houseboat and they say, I'd be interested in seeing that houseboat, and you're looking at the Zillow ad, the realtor that you're calling does not represent that houseboat, and Zillow kind of hides that. That realtor's been paid to be there, and they're paying Zillow, and Zillow is transferring your phone call to that particular realtor, so hopefully they can sell you that houseboat. So a lot of people don't know that Zillow makes a shiz-lit load of money doing that, and that's one of the reasons why Zillow's in the business of collecting all this information and collecting those phone calls and those emails and those SMSs.
And so some of the headlines here is they've reduced their nationwide 400 market estimate for values going up in 2026. It was at almost 1%. They reduced it to 0.5% this month when the mortgage rates spiked back up after the Iran war, and you've seen some slowdown in a lot of markets, and so they lowered this expectation. So that's the thing that got the big headline.
We're not at war, Ron. We're on an excursion.
That the excursion has caused this to go down. Seattle, when you read it in the fine print, they're saying the Seattle market is dropping 1.8% year over year. So, and here's what I'm talking about when I talk about, headline porn. Like you see that headline, oh my God, well, this is crazy. What's going on? So I decided to go back. I did a deep dive study, and I said, let's go back to when they started keeping stats like this for the city of Seattle and just look at different time frames for real estate.
And if you want to, real quick, if you want to see this, go to Spotify, go to YouTube, and you can actually follow along because Ron has written this out beautifully. So.
And so when Don and I don't think you've ever heard us talk about speculating in real estate. Don preaches this as long as we've been doing this podcast. that he is a buy and hold investor. What does that mean? You're not trying to make a score in a year. If you want to do that, this is not the vehicle. We don't advise that. If you want to make a financial score in a year, maybe you go in the stock market, maybe you buy a franchise or something, maybe you open a pressure washing business. That's how you can make money a year in a year. The real estate is not a vehicle to where you're going to speculate and go, oh my God, I'm down 1.8% this year. If you're trying to score in a year, this is the wrong place. So what I did is I went back and looked at this. The Pacific Northwest has been an insane real estate market in terms of performance. If you go back, 1975 was the first year that they started keeping stats in this format. From 75 to 79, real estate in the Pacific Northwest went up 111% in those 5 years. This is the post-Boeing boom. So Boeing is expanding, getting all sorts of contracts, is becoming a world player in the 70s and into the 80s. Real estate goes up 111%. From 80 to 89, it only went up 55%. So you bought a house, it still went up 55%. But if we remember in 1982, and I think this is when your mom tried to be a real estate agent, or in the early 80s, there was a crash in 82, and the recovery for that was pretty slow. Brutal, yeah. So if you are of this age, you will remember what happened in 1982. Then we go to 1990. So this is when Microsoft really starts to take off, and they move back from Albuquerque in the 70s. Microsoft, Bill Gates and Paul Allen were in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They sold some of their software and did a licensing deal, moved back up here where they went to high school and grew up. And so Microsoft really starts to rock and roll in the 90s. And so we see this crash in 82. It's still slowly happening, 43% returns in the 90s. Then when we hit the year 2000, the dot-com bubble happens, and we have 55% return from 2000 2009. But still, when you look at this, 111%, 55%, 43%, 55%. And then in 2010, Amazon really starts to take off. And that from 2010 to 2019, you have a 69% return. And then 2020 to 2024 is a 36% return. So every single 10-year period that we have up here has had a positive return. Here's the mind-blowing thing, though. If you bought a house in 2010...
Wow!
to 2024,
take a picture of this.
And this is about, I think, when you bought your house, is it not, Don? Right around 2010?
There's a house I bought in 2010, yeah. The
return from 2010 to 2024, so that is a 14-year span, is 155% return on real estate investments there. Then I looked at the only time, and I sort of printed out this chart to give you this thing. The only time in here where we had a multi-year negative period was from 2008 to 2012. That's when the housing crash happens, the Big Short. You had bank failures. The bubble popped nationwide. And so that's the only multi-year time. The only other time you had a negative return was in 1982, right here. So the stock market crash of 82, which was that big Black Friday thing. They call it Black Monday. Or Red Monday. There was something, a big crash in 82. And then in 2008 to 2012 with the market crash. Those are the only negative year-over-year periods in the Pacific Northwest. And so when I look at this number, yeah, that's not great. But you just came off the heels of 155%. So unless you bought your house in 2024 or 2023, you're still doing just fine. And so if you went, I don't know, maybe I'm a glass half full guy. How do you think about this information?
Yeah, I have a neighbor that lives on Queen Anne. They just sold their house, and they bought their house for $400,000 in 2011, and then they took care of it, right? They took care of it. It didn't have any deferred maintenance, but they didn't add on. They didn't put a new kitchen in or new bathrooms or anything like that. They've just taken care of their house. and it just went to market. It sold for almost $2 million, right? $2 million today. So that's the interesting thing about percentages, because it's a percentage of what? A percentage of what number, right? Is it 111% of
What you bought it for?
Yeah. So that's what's incredible about these numbers and these percentages.
That's the average.
Yeah.
So if you're in Queen Anne or Medina, that number's bigger than 155. That could be 300%.
And the thing I have to understand about this is, do these numbers include condos?
I think it's all real estate transactions.
Yeah. I mean, you to take homes, condos,
townhomes,
row houses, things with shared walls, backyard dadoos that are now being condominiumized, and people are selling off the homes that are in their backyards to pay for the home that's out front. So we're seeing a lot of that now. And then we're seeing a lot of mid-housing as well. A lot of the new stuff that builders are building and they're bringing to market, or they're cramming in between two other homes that they just built. It's different. If you own an old Craftsman that's on a 6,000 square foot lot on the east side, or let's say that you own something mid-century over in a place like Bellevue on a 16,000 square foot lot, the value of that is a lot different. And what has happened now with zoning, and we talked about this before, some of these homes that were built on these big lots, you couldn't tear them down or dismantle them because you couldn't build any other homes or subdivide the lot anyway. And now you can. Now we can. We have a particular house that's over on the east side, and the builder contacted me last night. And he said, hey, in order to make this plan work, because we're selling this home and I think they're going to take the home apart and build another homes there. He said, I need some of the neighbor's property. And it used to actually belong to your house. And now because they built a tennis court, there's something called adverse possession. What is adverse possession?
If you don't say anything, you're the property owner, and someone builds a fence on your line, and you don't never raise the issue.
Yeah.
After a certain elapsed time, that you lose the rights to that property.
Yeah, and you do a survey. Like I just did a survey at one of my properties at the top of Queen Anne, and where the neighbor's fence was established probably 30 years ago, and the person that owned my house didn't come over there and say, hey, I just did a survey. And we're about 5 feet off here. When I did the survey, my survey goes 5 feet into the neighbor's yard, right? There's nothing I can do about that because of adverse possession, because it's never pushed back. So something happened in this particular property before our folks even owned the property, where someone built a sport court or a tennis court, and the folks that owned our property didn't say anything. So as a result of that, they had kind of built the sport court and the tennis court on our property, and now we're selling our property. The builder's interested, but he's like, hey, adverse possession's killing me here because I need 20 yards of that particular property back in order to build these homes. So now we have to go back over to the neighbor and see if we can come up with a dollar amount and say, hey, this used to be our property. We understand it's not anymore because of adverse possession. We want to see if we can buy it back. Our builder's only going to build 2 homes. If you don't give us back to us, we have another builder that's going to come in and build 16. So what would you like to do? And we'll see if the neighbor wants to sell the property.
So I got to ask you, because we did have a stretch here, and I have it on another printout. There was a stretch in this 2010 to 2024 where you were seeing 15, 18% year over year every single year. And you're like, oh my God, how can this go on forever? So now that is to negative 1.8, again, neighborhood specific and sensitive to that. What would you tell people?
Thinks about it. It depends on what I was just saying. It depends on the property that you're buying now and what can I do with this property in the future. So there's something called, let's say that you're going to go in and buy a property with a big backyard, and you're never going to build anything in the backyard, but you know at some point that you could, or that somebody could. You buy that property and maybe even pay a little more, and that's called land banking. I'm going to buy this house. I got the property in the backyard, and that property in the backyard is free land. And someday someone's going to pay me a lot of money because maybe I'm not going to build a house, but a builder's going to come along, or someone that buys this home. So when I'm out looking for a house now, I'm not just looking at the house. I'm looking at the yard and I'm seeing, even if I don't have the ability to build something, can I land bank something here? Can I put money in the bank in the future on the basis of what this land is going to be worth? So that's one thing that you have to think about. And then the other thing is when you look at any property, if there's a lot of it, like you go over to Eastlake right now, and we have a friend that just reached out to us, and he said, "Hey, I would like to sell this row house over here for the same amount of money that I bought for this. Like, if I could just get out of it for what I paid two years ago." It's like, where are you in the row? I'm in the middle. Do you have any parking? No. Do the other two on either side of you have parking? Yes. Do you have a garage? No. Are there lots of other homes like that in the neighborhood? It's the whole neighborhood. You're probably not going to get out of that. You probably paid too much of that because you looked at that and you didn't understand that I'm buying the home in the middle. So I'm buying that at a discount, which means I have two shared walls, which means I have noise on both sides and I'm not on a corner. So you really have to strategize about, I'm buying this property, but when somebody buys this property from me 5, 7, 10 years from now, what can they do with that? If you're buying a home in a neighborhood where everybody has a garage and you don't have a garage, or you don't have room to build a garage, then that's going to be a problem, right? And so it really comes down to the individual property. We had a property last year that was over in an equestrian area. And you could buy this property, but in the equestrian area, you need, what was it? You had to have 10,000 square feet of paddock space or something like this on this equestrian property.
Maybe more than that.
Even though all these zoning laws have changed, I think it's continuous. Even though all these zoning laws have changed, it hasn't changed for this particular equestrian property. So all you're going to be able to do is put up some fences and run some horses and maybe a barn. But even putting a sport court out there in the middle of the equestrian property, you couldn't do that. So you really got to understand, what are you buying? And are you buying it? If you're buying something over in Kirkland right now, they want you to build. They'll bend over backwards. So like, come on in and build. We'll build in your backyard. We'll build in the alley. We need middle housing because it's the people that live in the middle housing that are going to be the cops, the firefighters, the garbage collectors, people working in restaurants. We need people in middle housing because what's happening, if you don't have middle housing, then you have a hard time making your city roll, right? There's 121 cops right now in Kirkland, and they say less than 10% of those cops can even afford to live there. And so what we're seeing now with cops, and we see it here in Seattle, hey, it's too expensive to live in Seattle. So I'm going to make a little less money, and instead of driving into Seattle from Tacoma, I'm just going to be a Tacoma cop because they're looking for cops out here too. We'll go ahead and buy a piece of real estate in Tacoma because we see Tacoma on the come as well. But it depends upon, again, what are you buying? And if there's a bunch of stuff in the neighborhood that's just like the home that you're buying and they all look alike, then that is not going to accelerate in value the same way if you went over to West Seattle and you said, wow, this is a 16,000 square foot lot. But the way this house is positioned on the back side of the lot, and even though it's a starter house and this thing was built in 1924, that right there in the future, even if all you do is live in that house and take care of that house, that right there is going to be a gold mine because sometime in the future, somebody is going to buy that house. They're going to build a big house out front. They're going to pay you for the land. And then the house that you live in the back, that's going to become the backyard cottage.
So I guess my final thought is there's no guarantee that your real estate is always going to go up. There will occasionally be years that it's in the red. But when you look at any 10-year span, where even when there was the financial meltdown, over the 10-year decades, you in Seattle, you have seen returns. Is that always going to hold true for the ever and ever and ever? I don't know, but it's held true for the past 50 years.
Yeah, and again, these numbers, they shouldn't be mixing in condos and shared wall and all that because the way that those perform and the way that a single-family home performs on a great piece of land in a great neighborhood, that's apples and oranges. It's not even apples. It's not even the same fruit. It's very, very different, right? It's apples, and then it's really, really, really moldy carrots that you forgot, that you left in the bottom vegetable drawer with a couple onions, and then you wake up one day and you're like, Charlie, what is that? And you're blaming it on the dog. It's the carrots and the onions that you left in the vegetable drawer, which I may have done last night.
Black goo?
That may have happened. What's that?
Is it a black goo?
Every once in a while, man, you just got to open up the fridge and just let it out. It's interesting because my 15-year-old now is like, he's hiding things in the fridge so I can't find them so that he can eat them. And then I find them, and you know what I do? I eat them, and then he said, you ate my food. And I'm like, but you didn't pay for the food.
I bought the food.
I bought the food. Yeah, but that's mine. I'm like, I think he might be right.
He's taking in a lot of calories.
It's getting big, man. Getting big. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ron and Don Show. Don't forget we do a Ron and Don sit down where you sit down and we talk about your real estate journey. We also have a buyer's playbook and a seller's playbook. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com, download one of those bad boys, and then we can sit down and have a cup of coffee and we can talk about your real estate journey today. All right?
You keep the mug.
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you're buying, selling, and investing, or if you're thinking about starting short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, long-term rentals, we're here to help with that. We have a lot of experience in those areas, so we love to help you as well. And don't forget, we sell the sound. We have the largest social media following, I think, of any realtor in Western Washington, and we're not afraid to use it. So, and by the time that you hear this, boy, do we have an amazing home that is on right now in Kirkland, Washington. That will be our home of the week, so we can't wait to tell you about that as well.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Wow.
I love Kirkland.
The home of the week. In fact, we just put a brand new bathroom in the primary, and this is out in an old apple orchard. It's probably a part of Kirkland that you've never been in, and there's like 7 grand homes in this neighborhood, and this is one of them, so we can't wait to tell you about
Don and
that
I were
as
there
well.
back in the day at Shark in our sweater vests.
The Shark.
Like, was it the Shark?
The Shark.
I got a sweater vest from Structure down at Bellevue Square, and
right.
I thought it was pretty hot stuff. Turned out it was really hot to wear a sweater to a nightclub.
That was, yeah.
Not my best.
RonDonSitDown.com right now. We can help you. Thanks to Matt and Charlie the dog, my son, our station voice, the 7-year-old version. He's Ron. I'm Don. I'm Don O'Neill on Facebook and also on Instagram. He's Ron Upshaw. Please give us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate that too. And a 5-star rating. That means a lot to us, guys. And we appreciate everyone that continues to follow the Ron and Don Show, whether it be for radio or real estate. Till next time. If you need us, RonandDonSitDown.com. Find us on social media. Head up, shoulders back. We'll see you. You will be listening to the Ron and Don Show. All right! Anything, station voice? No. On the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.